webinar, and I'd like to welcome everybody who signed in, as well as the people who have not signed in. We expect quite a few more to join as we go along here. This is a webinar to introduce and talk about with more detail the Alaskan Flower Essences. And I have done a webinar back in April, I believe, that was an introduction to the Alaskan Essences, but we've talked since then about the gem elixirs and the environmental essences, and I thought it would be a good idea to talk more specifically about the flowers, because that's how everything got started. So, yeah, if anybody has any technical problems, just type in a chat message. My lovely assistant, Judith, my wife, is helping me and taking care of that part. And we'll do whatever we can to keep everybody connected and happy. Pull up the presentation here. So I'd like to start by saying some personal things, sort of sharing my story, how I got into making essences. And I might have spoken about this before in a previous webinar or class attended. But I was walking our dog this morning. It was a beautiful morning out, sunshine and sort of crisp autumn temperature. And I was struck by the beauty and the power of nature. And that's what started the whole thing for the Alaskan Essences, was an appreciation of the power of nature coming from the place of being a firefighter, which is what took me to Alaska in the first place. But taking another step, if you will, to go to Alaska to fight fire inside the lower 48 really opened some doors into a much wider and grander experience, if you will. And there was 5 summers that I fought fire in Alaska before I actually started making the essences, but it was a course of an introduction to the power of the nature kingdoms up there, the flower kingdoms, the elemental kingdoms. And when I got the inspiration and the guidance to start making flower essences, it was a logical next step in my life. I was dealing with several personal healing issues and had been taking the Bach remedies for 2 or 3 years before I started making the Alaskan flowers. And so I knew something about the power of the remedies for healing. But when I was in Alaska and starting out in those first weeks and months making essences up there, it was obviously a much more immediate uh, experience uh, that with each flower that I would tune into and each flower that I would work with, I'd have a very strong um, personal relationship and experience that lasted 4 days, weeks, months, and sometimes years. So I guess one of the things that I always like to stress when I'm talking about flower essences is it's a representation, it's sort of the tip of the iceberg representation of this incredible support system that's out there. Uh, we're surrounded by it all the time, no matter where you live. Obviously, in big cities, um, that maybe nature is a little bit further away, but those of us that maybe live a little bit closer to nature, it's something that's quite there and quite present. But in Alaska, it's actually surrounding you in a very powerful way. And what I was able to do in that first summer that I made Essences in 1983 was make a connection between the power that I felt in nature, uh, in the various flowers that were blooming there, and how that could have an effect, have a positive healing effect on my life. Because I was a good test subject, if you will. I was a person who had some stuff going on. I was aware of it, and I was curious and very interested to find help, to find something that would help with those issues. So I was also very guided in terms of the order in which I approached the flowers that were there. Looking back, I can see that much more clearly. But at the time, it was, in essence, would present itself, and I would work with that and eventually make that essence, and then the next one would come, and they came in the exact order that I needed. Uh, so it was a very subjective experience of healing on a very deep level, which is something that continues to this day. So you're looking at a picture of golden portalis, which was blooming on the shore of Lake Minchumina, which is where I started to make the essences. And uh, this was just one example of a relationship. You get up in the morning and, yeah, let's go find that particular flower and see what it has to say. Um, I've got some slides here that I'll show you, and then I'll sort of just talk around the text that's there. Um, as probably most of you know, the um, difference between flowers and jam environmental essences, or all the different ones that are out there, is flowers are specifically embodying a quality of consciousness, and we call it a virtue or a positive quality. And each plant has one of those and fully embodies that. In other words, there's absolutely no separation between that quality as it exists in the universe and that quality coming through that particular flower. So it's a total representation, if you will. Um, so we have three pictures here: wild iris, tamarack, and bog rosemary. And each one of these, just a sort of off the top of my head representation, but wild iris can teach us everything we need to know about creativity. And uh, what we know and what we practice and what we know in terms of taking the remedy, again, it has a lot of different levels. And I would say there's probably a lot more to come from all of these essences. They're continually downloading new information as we're able as a human. Um, so again, there's this connection, which is probably the one thing to take away from a webinar like this is there's a uh, direct connection between something going on in an individual and what the flower has to offer. And for wild flowers, it could be simply that there's really nothing wrong with us in terms of our creativity, but if we want to create more, we want to open up the capacity in terms of our creative power and the projects that we want to take on and so on, then nature can help us and tell us how to make those adjustments. So it's not necessarily fixing something, oh, I'm not creative. Everybody has creative power. But Wild Iris is saying, well, here's how to find it, here's how to ground it, here's how to open up more to inspiration. So it's talking about the different nuances or the different angles that a person might want to look at. And uh, all of them then promoting that the growth of that particular quality in the person. Now, another way to look at essences, um, which isn't in the text, but it's that they address polarities. So again, we're not fixing by taking an essence, but we're resolving polarities. So in some cases, a person is, say, with bladderwort, which is a flower essence for uh, vision and being able to see clearly. Uh, Sometimes people are taken advantage of, or there's such a slick presentation through the TV or politics or whatever, and the person is like, "Oh, I guess that's true," and there might be a need for quite a bit of development in terms of that person's ability to get in touch with their own vision and their own truth. So in some cases, the flowers will actually be waking up a dormant quality and then just fine tuning that. So the polarity uh, gets less and less and less until it ceases to exist. And I guess the bottom line, you're finished with a particular flower essence. It means that you have embodied that particular quality to its uh, total level that's possible, and you don't need it anymore. So there is a beginning point, middle point, and an end point in terms of taking essences. Um, but this is, I would say it's almost a lifestyle for some people, certainly for me, uh, recognizing that this wonderful support system is there and allowing it to come in. Um, it is simply an act of allowing. Of course, you can do it for yourself, or you can have a therapist help sort of narrow down which particular essences you need at a particular time. But it's about over time becoming more empowered, having less of these strong polarities in terms of how we're approaching life, and uh, so sort of coming up with new ways of doing things that work better, that are more effective and feel better. Um, Now, a lot of this information is taken from Dr. Bach, who was my mentor in the beginning. Um, it's important to understand that flower essences uh, have an incredible range in terms of how they can work. So we talk about it as them working on the soul level, which completely encompasses the rest of it. So we can break that down into four main levels: spiritual, mental, emotional, and physical. Um, Primarily in my work, and I think in a lot of people's work with the essences, they're working on the mental and the emotional level for a lot of people. And it's sort of a focus that is easy for most people to say, yeah, I would like to upgrade the quality of my thoughts. I would like to think better thoughts, or I would like to get a better sense of my emotions and how they can how I can sort of hang out at a better emotional place. How can I work with my emotions when I have strong emotions coming up and so on. But I really like both of these bottom paragraphs. We don't take flower essences because something is wrong with us. We take them because we want to strengthen certain qualities within ourselves so we're better able to do what we're here to do, and to do it with, again, less effort, more ease, and more joy. And Dr. Bach, back in the 1930s, put that in a little different words. The remedies cure not by attacking disease, but by flooding our bodies with the beautiful vibrations of our higher nature. in the presence of which disease melts as snow in the sunshine. Notice that he used the word our higher nature. So there's really not a disconnect there. It's the nature, the spiritual power of nature, the healing power of nature coming through our higher nature and helping us affect change on these other levels. So in many cases, people start out with a physical issue, and we say, or I've said in the past that gem elixirs work on a more physical level, but flower essences can help you find what is physical issue, what are the emotions that are connected to it, and what are the mental pieces, the thoughts and the belief systems that are connected to it, and if need be, what spiritual issues or beliefs are connected to it. So it's kind of a detective work that if we have an intuitive approach, which is something that I use, we can just discover, yeah, let's see what's connected to this symptom, and let's see what's connected to that one, and take this journey with nature. Um, so this presentation is available, and the recording of this webinar will be available, so you don't have to write all this down. But I like showing a couple of slides here just to show you how many different ways you can integrate flower essences into your daily life. I've been talking about more of a long-term relationship that you might have with them, either with a therapist or both with the therapist in testing yourself. We call that long-term work, working at core issues. Uh, but there's also the situational or the short-term use, which I highly encourage everybody to do both. If you've got a few essences in the house, have them out and have them available so you can use them. The more that you have these experiences of needing something and then, saying, oh, I'm going to go reach for an essence uh, and seeing the flower essence that comes up, reading about it, finding out what it's for, and then making that connection, that's the magic in all of this. Um, it's, and doing that over time, then you're like, okay, I get how this works. And then it just keeps going. So um, as long as we're inhabiting a body, we're going to have a need for some of these things. So situational or short-term use means just in the moment, maybe for a couple of days, and then you move on. Um, I certainly use the essences a lot for traveling because I do a lot of that. I use them definitely before going to any uh, dentist or doctor's appointment. But you can also use them for fun things, just to bring energy into a celebration, have an essence for the birthday, to celebrate or to help with the birth in the family, these kinds of things. So it's not just the work, but it's also the fun. Um, Long-term use, again, is something that I highly recommend for anybody who's interested, because then you can really see how the flowers can help you over time. And you get to the point, probably fairly quickly with most of you, of instead of having a relationship with that essence as it exists in the bottle and then looking it up online or on the catalog, you start to have a relationship with the plant that's behind that essence, and you start to be able to communicate with that plant directly. We have a set of photo cards, uh, which are of the 72 flowers in the practitioner set, the Alaskan practitioner set. And that's even an easier way to connect in a situational or short-term way uh, with a particular flower. Say, what do I need in this moment to get some more clarity here, or I'm having some difficulties and I want to be able to shift my energy from where I am to where I want to be. And so you pull a card, you have the actual picture, which is a live energy coming through that photo, and then you can flip the card over and see the information on the back, the affirmations and the keywords. So that's a really direct and fun way to interact. Um, but again, we'll have time towards the end of the presentation for um, some questions and answers via the chat box. So any questions you have about um, any of this information, we can cover it then. And then I'm going to put up one more, which again, don't necessarily need to write down because there's quite a few. This is a slide that we work on every summer in our practitioner training to see if there's any uses that people have that we haven't gotten down here. So it's expanded over the years. Um, but there's quite a few ways to use flower essences um, that some of you may not have realized, and so you can have a look at that list. Some of my favorites are in creams, in massage oils, and in body lotions, because it's something that pretty much, if you want to look at essences as an extension of your own self-care rituals, that's a really great way to bring them into life. Is most of us will do something on a daily basis for self-care uh, in the morning or before we go to bed, and that's a great time to use the flower essences. Um, of course, doing things that you don't necessarily like doing so much, like cleaning, um, you can use the essences to help with that and to actually bring, so we call that invocation, to bring the energies into the house and into the cleaning process. We're talking about creativity with wild iris. You can actually put the wild iris essence or others in uh, watercolors or in the use when you're painting. If you're an artist and you use clay or paint or something like that, you're actually putting it right in there. So there's just no limit to possibilities. Um, and again, I put this information out there just to encourage you to play more with the essences, to not have them just be about serious health issues, which many of us are either dealing with ourselves or we have friends or colleagues that are dealing with them. But I have 6 essences that I want to talk about in a little bit more detail from the Alaskan system. And again, if you have questions about any of these, we'll address those as time allows. And the first one is alpine azalea. Um, this is a rhododendron, so those of you that live in parts of the world like Brazil, who have the tall bushes or rhododendron trees, this is a little tiny version of that. It grows way up in the high elevations in Alaska. And so this flower, these 2 flowers that you're looking at, are very minuscule and little fingernail. That's how small they are. This plant grows as a mat at Alpine, and there could be 500 or 1,000 flowers on that mat. So it's quite distinctive and has a wonderful scent. I put this one first because this is an essence that I think a lot of people need. It's certainly one that um, I would take along. If I could only take a few essences with me on a journey, this would be one of them. And the reason for that is because it's working with opening our self-appreciation. So helping us come into a better place of appreciating ourselves. And how it's working is to help us connect with the appreciation that nature has for us. and specifically the angelic energies of nature. So the experience of making this essence was to be sitting there and having the angels of Alpine Azalea come through and basically ask me why I didn't, wasn't a judgment or anything, but just curious why I wasn't appreciating myself more. And I didn't really have a good answer at the time. And they said, well, you know that um, pain that you have in your body uh, quite often. I said, yeah, I know about that. They said a lot of that pain, or most of that pain, has to do with your lack of appreciation and lack of self love. And so I got an experience. I was able to allow that love in from those angels and from nature. And I had an experience for 2 or 3 hours of bliss in the body, absolutely no pain anywhere on the physical level. And suffice it to say, it was a very joyful and blissful experience. So I got to understand how important that was. Uh, and again, it's something that it's a practice. It's something we do maybe every day, appreciate ourselves a little bit more. But the essence has shown me that a lot of people are appreciative of themselves and they love certain things about themselves, but there may be some aspects that they don't so much appreciate. And this essence will help you look into those. Maybe it's a part of your appearance, or maybe it's how you did in the past, or how you're thinking and feeling a certain thing. This essence will bring that same love and support to uh, that part of your being, or that part of your body. So it feels love, first of all, from nature, and then that creates this flow, if you will, of you being able to appreciate it yourself. And if you had some chronic pain in that area, it would go away. So it's really maybe just step by step looking at the aspects that need to be brought into the fold, if you will, need to be brought into the embrace of self love. And the bottom line is, with this essence, is that if we're not appreciating ourselves and we're not loving ourselves, then nature and the rest of the universe can't come in there either. So it's like putting a hand out and saying, no, I don't need any of that love, thank you very much. They will not sort of break the doors down and say, well, we're just going to love you anyway. The love is there, you'll feel it on other levels, but to get it into that little pocket, that little area that you're holding, this essence is a great one to take for that. And in many cases, people don't even know that they're putting up that resistance. But again, if you trace it many times from a physical issue, and then say, yeah, well, Alpine Azalea came up, I see that I do need to love myself more in that particular way. Um, so it's taking it to another level then, having a unconditional, moving towards an unconditional acceptance and love for oneself, then we can really have that for others. It helps us take that into our relationships and our interactions with other people. Um, yeah, Kay, this is Alpine is also known as rhododendron, scientific name. Excuse me. Forgot to spray the easy learning. We spray every time we do a webinar or do a workshop. So yeah, bottom line, self-appreciation, self-love, um, continuing that process, opening to allow the angels and the beings of nature to come through the heart. Excellent, wonderful essence. Then there's fireweed, and this is uh, my totem plant, if you will, sort of from the shamanic tradition. This is the plant that got my attention when I first went to Alaska. And the reason that I'm making essences is because of fireweed. The initial connection with fireweed was an allergy. I was sitting out in McGrath, Alaska, and as a child, had hay fever and different allergies, but I had never been to Alaska, so I didn't know I was allergic to fireweed. And it's everywhere. So you sort of, if you're in Alaska, you're going to be around fireweed. So my actual first attunement that I did with nature was to this plant, and I sat down out of desperation, uh, just to see if I could get some information and some images because I'm very visual. And so I went to a place near the fire station where nobody would see me, sitting there talking with the plant, and had a conversation. And I was impressed with how strong the information was, how strongly it came through. I mean, if any of you have seen fireweed, it is a very powerful and strong and tall plant. But I was given some very strong images of uh, the amount of luggage or baggage that I brought to Alaska. And I'm thinking, well, I didn't bring that much. I was actually quite proud. I just brought a backpack and one of those army green bivy sacks, they call them, big whack sacks, and a little day pack. And they're no, take a closer look. And I got this image of uh, suitcase after suitcase stretching out into infinity. And they said, those other suitcases are all of the um, other kinds of baggage that you brought. So the emotional baggage that you brought and the mental baggage. And, oh, okay, now I understand. And the fireweed was basically telling me what you're allergic to is not us, but we are a mirror to show you everything else that you're carrying around. It's not the physical luggage that you brought, it's the rest of it. And basically, my understanding was if I started to look at that and process it and let go of a lot of it, then my allergy to this plant would go away. So I became very interested and took steps that winter, got some counseling, started looking at my relationships with my family and so on, and started doing a lot of healthy things like yoga and so on. And sure enough, next summer I went out to a different part of Alaska and I wasn't allergic to fireweed. So this started the whole process of understanding how fireweed can help all of us let go. And its presence in nature, it's called fireweed because it comes in after a fire and starts a new forest. It's one of the earth healers. And it's actually able to come into an area that's been burned so terribly or so hot, the soil has been sterilized. And it comes in energetically first, and then it comes in physically and creates this network of light in the soil, which then other plants can come in and respond to the fact that there's some energy in the soil. So this is for people that have burned themselves out, that have had breakdowns of various kinds, um, sort of on our last leg, been burning the candle at both ends, all these different analogies and sayings that we have. But it helps people come from a place of being really, really tired to letting go of that which is making you tired and letting go of tiredness itself. And then, more importantly, opening up to new energy coming in from nature. So, coming in from uh, the fireweed through the fireweed and coming in from the ground, if you will. So, it's an essence that is about starting over, it's about taking new steps in life. Certainly something that I've been using on and off since I first discovered it. Um, because there's always things that are passing, things that are closing, cycles that are stopping, and maybe we need some help with that. Part of you can help with the old things closing and finishing up, as well as starting something new. Um, and it's just about moving energy. So circulation issues, looking at it from a physical point of view, or how much are you circulating life? How much are you moving through life? And how much are you allowing things to change easily around you and inside of you? So it's also an essence that's in our soul support combination, which is our emergency formula. And it can be used in any emergency situation. We have cases where it's been used with burn patients, and therefore, in soul support is something that you can bring to any sort of accident or injury. That combination formula actually has 3 different kinds of fire reeds in it, um, all working in that same area in that same way. So again, if there's any questions about this, you can type them in and we'll address them in a bit. Um, the next one is very near and dear to myself, wild rhubarb. Um, and I'm assuming I'm including it because I'm assuming it will be helpful for other people as well. And this is an essence that helps us change the relationship between our minds and our hearts. And the polarity, which I had when I was working, when I began working with wild rhubarb, is that the mind thinks it's running the show and it's wanting to sort of control how things go, the steps that we would take uh, to achieve something. It just wants to be control. And the essence is basically saying, the plan is saying, well, that's not the best way to go. I mean, there are better ways to do this. So it's shifting that relationship so that the heart is put in the seat of, yeah, the heart is running the show. The heart is suggesting how we should get to or through a situation. And the heart is then asking the mind for assistance. So it's completely changing that relationship around. Experience where I was needing to photograph these plants for the website and for the photo cards. And wild rhubarb was one of the ones that was having trouble finding. And I was needing to, get these pictures so that I could get going on this project. And so there was a certain amount of worry, I guess, that I wasn't going to be able to do that, because if you miss it, then you wait till next year. So I was out driving around frantically trying to find wild rhubarb, and I wasn't seeing it. And to cut to the end of the story, I stayed at a B&B in Fairbanks, having not seen it for the previous 100 miles of driving along, and was very upset with myself. I really need to find this. I really need to find this. And I got up the next morning to go get some food for breakfast, and it was everywhere. It was outside of the B&B. It was on the way to the store. Later on, when I kept driving to a place called Circle Hot Springs, I saw nothing but wild rhubarb on both sides of the highway for about 110 miles. So it was kind of a cosmic joke. They're saying, you just have to allow the heart to be the driver in this situation. You were so into the control, got to find it, because it has to happen in a certain time and in a certain way, that I couldn't see it. So I was able to get the picture, as you can see, fairly nice picture. And it is an essence that I love taking, because I still find myself wanting things to be a certain way. Um, I think some of us have a very strong sort of trajectory through life, and we're wanting to make sure things work out, and so we can be really effective and efficient and get things done, that we really will do better and have a better time of it if we allow the heart to step in and be the boss. So this essence helps with that transition, um, and it's, I guess, it's, to say the sort of the ultimate place that we would want to get to with this essence is that there's no separation. To be so centered in the heart and to have the power of the heart be strong is that in mind, and you're not really going mind or heart. It's just all one. Excuse me. So that's the path that we're on with this. A lot of these essences are, for a lot of people, myself included, something that you may be working with for a while. Um, the next one is cotton grass, and cotton grass is, uh, and I'm going to talk more about the living book before we're done today. But cotton grass is um, an essence that I think it's probably one of our top sellers. I know it's one of our top sellers. We have more information about it in our online repertoire, which we call the living book, than any other essence. We have more keywords for it. It's an essence that is so important to most people and animals on the planet. And the reason for this is that it's about shifting from pain to healing. It looks like little cotton balls, um, and there is a very absorptive, it's actually capable on a physical level of absorbing pain. Um, it's not a painkiller, but it helps soften the edges, if you will, so that we can get our focus back. When you're in a lot of pain, it's not easy to focus on other things. And so it's in essence that says, well, I will help you uh, soften that a bit so that you can take your focus and your awareness to what is causing the pain. And if it's chronic pain, what the issues are behind all of it. So, it could be something from 15 years ago that you're still having some problems with. The need for cotton grass, therefore, can be very acute. It can be something that just happened, or it could be something from a long time ago that you still have more information. There needs to be a little bit more information about what happens so you can finish up the healing process. So it's something, again, that could start from a symptomatic place. I mean, pain is something that's very it's in service to us because it's trying to get our attention. The cotton grass is saying, I can help you understand why this happened in terms of an accident or an injury. What are the larger issues about that? I will help you look at those so that you can get what needs to be understood. You can experience, sort of the culmination or the completion of this to finish it up, and the pain will go away. Um, this essence is also in our soul support formula for obvious reasons. It's something that um, you know, the soul support has 9 different remedies in it, and they're all in there for different reasons. But this one's there just to help with the immediate um, pain or discomfort. Um, I would say cotton grass is something that would be a great essence to have as sort of a first aid kit. You want to have 6 or 7 essences in your home that you could grab in the case of something happening. This and soul support could be used for that. Um, but it's an essence that has so many applications in terms of helping us just finish things up. The physical body ends up being, as you get older, sort of a receptacle for a lot of unfinished business. And cotton grass is one of the essences in our system that can help us go and say, okay, well, let's take the thing that's bothering us the most, find out what's going on there, and lighten the load, if you will. So the experience of being in the physical body can be much easier and lighter. Um, about the shelf life, so emotional pain. Yeah, thank you for that question, Deborah. When we talk about pain, yeah, all kinds of pain. So, however it presents itself, um, and if you go to the original information where I first understood this from Dr. Bach, is that if you have an issue at the physical level, you have to go to um, a higher level, a higher vibrational level to find out what's going on. So physical pain, you want to look at the emotions. Emotional pain, you want to look at your thoughts and your belief systems, look at the mental level. If you have mental anguish, you want to look at the spiritual. So we always want to go one step up. And there can be, again, all these different kinds of pain and discomfort. If we don't attend to the higher levels of pain and discomfort, it will come to reside in the physical body. So it's a huge yes in answering your question. Um, the idea with flower essences is to sort of try to get ahead a little bit or a lot and say, well, I'd rather uh, be working at this discomfort and this pain before it drops into my physical body. I'd rather not have to wait. So let's see how we can address it on the emotional levels and on the mental level. Then that saves us that other step and that other work. Um, so yeah, the essence will take you where you need to go in terms of the understanding. Will take you direct your awareness and your focus to exactly where you need it to be. Um, and we'll answer the shelf life question towards the end. Um, And then the next one is blue elf viola, and blue elf viola is a plant which many of you might recognize as growing in your gardens. This is a garden plant. Um, it volunteers sometimes. If your neighbor has it, it'll show up in your yard. And uh, you can go to the nursery and get these. I think this particular one was actually called Johnny Jump Ups. Um, a friend of mine suggested back in the 80s that we make this essence, just got a really strong sense that it would be a very important essence, and it turns out to be one of the most important essences in our system. And one of the things that I talk about when I'm teaching and talking about the flowers is doctrine of signatures, and this flower has a really great doctrine of signatures or signature, and that simply means that there's indications on the physical level from the color, the gesture, sometimes the scent and how it grows and who it grows with. Those are all clues that can lead us to an understanding of the healing point. So most people, when I ask them in a class, what do you see in this flower? They'll say one of two things. One is they'll see an angel in the center. So the yellow bit or the orange bit would be the angel. And then a bunch of, uh, usually in an equal amount, you'll see someone shouting or like a mouth shouting. And when I first got that feedback, I'm like, oh, both of those are true. Because it's about being able to express strong emotion, such as anger, in not necessarily an angelic way, but in a heart centered way. So this essence helps us move strong emotion from wherever we're storing it, wherever it's residing in our system, to the heart and to be able to bring it up and have it go out through our expression. Um, so it's a clean and powerful way to be angry, to express strong emotion, um, but doing it in a way that doesn't perpetuate the cycle of violence, verbal abuse. Um, you know, one person says, "Well, I have some things I really need to tell you," and they get angry, and then the other person gets angry, and back and forth and back and forth. So blue elf viola helps us bring support from nature and love from nature to the place where we're holding all of this strong emotion. And that in and of itself is a huge help. It's saying, okay, I feel supported in being angry, or I feel supported in feeling this way. Then we're able to allow that energy, that emotional energy, some release. It may need to be directed at another person, but then you can have that discussion, or maybe a group of people that have that discussion and do it in a way that is so clean and clear that people get, oh, okay, I get that you're angry. There's no hooks in your expression of that emotion that they, I'm not saying people wouldn't have a response, but it's so clean and clear that you're feeling, oh, okay, I've got that off my chest. I got that feeling out there. I feel much more empowered that I've been able to say this, and then generally people are able to receive it because you presented it in such a way. And this isn't just about anger; it can be any strong emotion um, that we store in the emotional body, in the energetic body, in the physical body. And of course, the reason we do that is we don't know what else to do with it, so we sit on it. So blue up viola is going to be really handy for conflict resolution. Those of you that are therapists and you have people coming in, maybe some of you are working with uh, groups, uh, professional groups or companies, and this would be a great essence to have that everybody in a particular professional group takes, so they can get along better. Everybody can say how they feel and move that energy along. But yeah, any kind of conflict resolution, I could see huge applications for this in school, for young children, getting along with each other. Um, talk about that for the next 2 hours. But so yeah, it's a really wonderful essence, really bright, sunny energy that puts out, something that's quite nice in Alaska to be able to see this in May when there's still snow on the ground, and it will get snowed on, and then the snow will melt and the flower is still like, hey, I'm still here. It's really strong. Yeah, hopefully our recording will be consistent throughout. I know the audio can drop out depending on the strength of your internet connection, whether you're on a phone or, excuse me, on a smartphone or an iPad or whatever. It is being recorded, and we'll post that usually within 2 or 3 days after the webinar. So the last one that we'll be talking about is sphagnum moss. Um, this grows all over Alaska. It's sort of a carpet of green throughout the whole boreal forests, which are the northern forests of the Earth. So Russia, Scandinavia, Canada, Alaska, and down into further south into England, and you'll see it even down to the 45th parallel, which is kind of where we are right now, halfway between the equator and the pole. So it is a very widespread plant, and it has a very interesting signature in that it's extremely sensitive to humidity, and therefore it's and this, and I'll follow this up in a minute in terms of what that means from a metaphysical point of view. But as a firefighter, we would go out and we'd find some sphagnum moss and we would squeeze it. And if water came out of it, then we'd know we had a lot of humidity and it would be easier to fight the fire. Um, if it turned dry and crumbled in our hands, we knew we were in trouble because the humidity was very low. And it can change from one state to the next very rapidly. So, as an essence, this factors in terms of, I mean, one way to talk about it is it's an essence for, you take it along with alpine azalea, for instance, it's an essence for self criticism and self judgment and criticizing things that you would think really do not need to be criticized. For instance, people that were taking this essence for their healing process not going the way that they'd hoped it would, sort of getting down on themselves, you know, how come this is taking me so long? Um, I've been taking essences and doing these things, and I'm, you know, impatient. Um, so it's to kind of bring in this carpet of green, loving support. Imagine as you're connected to this essence how many millions and millions of acres of this plant there are on the planet. And it's really uh, constantly exuding an energy of um, unconditional love, uh, complete and total non judgment. And so you can imagine yourself at least standing on that carpet and saying, okay, well, I'm surrounded by this energy of non judgment. Then it's just about me letting it in and finding ways to do that more and more. Um, what did I say with extreme? Mm, maybe it'll come back around. Um, the north again, then something about the boreal forests. I'll go back to that for a second. These are forests, and it takes up maybe a third of the planet that has pretty much escaped huge population pressure. And I just like to remind people that you have up there in the northern parts of the planet, again, it's millions and millions and millions of acres of a plant that is exuding support for us being on the planet and saying, you know, pay attention to energetically your feet are on the planet, and I'm bringing 24/7, 365, I'm bringing non-judgment to you. I'm bringing the energy of unconditional love. And this is especially important essence for people who are working with others. So therapists, teachers, counselors, anybody that's in the helping professions, because we want to be able to approach those professions with non-judgment. Uh, the the stories, the things that we might see, the stories we might hear, we have to have a place in us where we can hold the space of healing, of non-judgment. That in and itself is a huge healing. I think a lot of times people go to a counselor just to be heard and to be in a safe place. So sphagnum moss can help create that safe place in your own heart for yourself and in your practice, if you will, for your clients. If you see yourself responding to some of the things that are coming in the door, and yeah, I mean, we have a lot of crazy stuff going on the planet. Have to remember to continually just say, okay, um, I want to remain in this place of non-judgment in myself, make that stronger and stronger, and then I want to be able to uh, project that out and radiate that out into the world around me, um, so that the energy of judgment becomes a lot weaker. more people that do this. Um, so those are the 6 essences to talk about. And then I have a couple of slides just to go over for some of you maybe for the first time. I think there are people attending this that haven't seen a webinar from us before. And it's just to sort of talk about the miracle of essences in terms of how they're made. Um, and then we'll open this up for questions and answers. This is a picture of the green bog orchid we made. And there's, I believe, 5 stems of orchid in this bowl, each one of them maybe with 15 or 20 flowers. So there's, 60, 70, 80 flowers in the bowl. But it's a good picture to use to illustrate that you're using very little plant material when you're making a flower essence. I use the original Bach method, which is to um, uh, cut the flowers and place them in the water. I asked for guidance in the beginning, and they said, yeah, that's definitely how you should do it. I know there are people making essences without cutting the flowers, but for the Alaskan essences, that is the way that we were guided to do it. And yet we're using very, very few of the sometimes millions of flowers that are out there of that particular species. But the miracle of economy is that uh, you take this bowl of water with these flowers and you uh, dilute it with brandy as a preservative. An 8-ounce bottle of that will make 1,620,000 dosage balls. So that is something that's quite sustainable. I like to talk about the sustainability of essences. We're not going out and picking every flower on an acre to make it. We're just taking a few. We're always asking for permission ahead of time. Can we take these flowers? And uh, and then just taking a few, and then we end up with this um, potentized water, as you see in this slide. Um, the energetic imprint, the virtuous quality that we referred to in the beginning, gets imprinted in that water um, in a very powerful way. And to make another essence, then we preserve it equal 50-50. And I'm talking about Alaskan essences. That's what we do. Other people may do it differently. But we put an equal amount of brandy, and then that is called another essence. Our company then takes 2 drops of that mother essence and puts it into a bottle, and that becomes a stock bottle, and that's what we sell to people. So it's just 2 drops of that bowl of water mixed with some preservative. We're now using bowls that hold quite a bit. In the beginning, we had little tiny bowls because we had no idea that this would be a commercial uh, endeavor, and so now we're making quite a bit. And I calculate that when we go out and make an essence, we'll have enough for about 20 years before we'll need to do it again. So to take it then to the next level, we talk about essences not being homeopathic. They're not made in any way, shape, or form as a homeopathic remedy. There's just the 3 dilutions. There's the dilution to make the mother essence, the dilution to make the stock bottle, and a dilution to make the dosage bottle. And again, to make a dosage bottle, we simply have 2 drops from the stock bottle to usually a 1 ounce or 30 ml dosage bottle. So 2 drops from the mother to the stock and 2 drops from the stock to the dosage. And if you have a 1 ounce or 30 ml stock bottle, you've got enough there for about 430 dosage bottles from that 1 ounce. bottle, and so quite inexpensive and very, very efficient. Um, Now, the dilution scheme is, we say 25% brandy for the dosage bottle. That means a bit much depending on where you live. If you're in Brazil, you want to use a little bit more because you have high heat and high humidity, which is what makes the bottles go off. If you're in a cold climate, you don't need as much. So this is, again, if there's any questions about any of this information, you can let us know. Um, and you can also take, just to finish this piece up, you can also take essences at the stock level without uh, putting them in a dosage bottle dilution. It basically makes the most sense. What is the most, what's the easiest, most, yeah, comfortable way, or what makes the most sense? If you're taking something just for a situational hour or day, you don't need to mix a dosage bottle. If you're making something up to take over a period of 4 weeks or 6 weeks, and make some dosage bottles. And then we sell the combination formulas, which you see in the picture, Easy Learning, it's an old picture. Um, those are made to be designed to be taken at the stock level as well as the dosage level. So it's really more convenience than anything else. Just what works the best. So I'm going to go back to, for a moment, a picture of fireweed for you to look at. And we can now open this up to the chat and questions and answers. And we'll go back through and look at the questions that have come already and address those first. Um, um, Shelf life, we also call it uh, best by date or used by date. We're required by, in the United States, we're required by the FDA to put a best by date. But I'm here to tell you that essences don't expire. The Alaskan essences don't expire. We have agreed to, with a lot of other essence companies in the world, that we would put a date of 10 years from the date of manufacture. And we also think it's nice to have a date on the label so you can tell how old it is. But I've had essences that, the Alaskan essences that we made up a long time ago, and they're still good. And I've also been able to hold a set of Bach remedies that were in glass vials with cork stoppers made by a doctor who's still alive in the 20s. This will probably been in the early 1930s. The labels were in his own handwriting, and I was able to hold that set, and it almost knocked me off my feet. So there, at the time that I had that experience, those essences were about 70 years old. So I can say with a lot of confidence that the Alaskan essences don't expire. You do need to store them in a good way, which means in a dark, cool place, and don't put them next to things that are very aromatic. Um, they will still work. They'll just taste like the soap or the essential oil that you had sitting next to. So not really a best, there's not really an expiration, short answer. Um, we primarily, because in Alaska, the sun is out in the summer pretty much all the time, depending where you are in the state. If you're up north, which is mostly where I was, it's continual daylight, and you've got direct sunlight if it's clear out. You have direct sunlight, um, especially in June and July, for about 22 hours a day. So you don't really notice the moon that much. It's there, the energy's there, but you don't really see it. So the emphasis on the Alaskan essences, the flower essences, is much more a solar influence, much more of a sun influence. We do have a couple of essences that requested to be made in the shade out of direct sunlight. Single Delight is one of those. Um, but the moon and the cycles of the moon and all of that were sort of in the background, the sun being really front and center in that whole process. And if I didn't answer your question, then write a clarification. Um, yeah. So Matsumi, I hope that answers that. Ava is asking, how do you suggest creating a plan or a strategy um, to learn about the spirits of the plants? Okay. Yeah, thank you. That's a wonderful question. One of the things that I'll always say in answer is we all need to prioritize. One of the things that's coming up for most people in the kind of the times that we live in with instantaneous communication, 24-hour news cycles, and so on, is there's so much information, there's so much coming up. We're all being bombarded constantly with information and energies coming. And so we really need to, number one, prioritize, and that actually helps us protect and keep some things out that we don't really need at the moment. So one of the ways in terms of a strategy or a plan is to prioritize. And so yes, you would have the most pressing concerns, um, but I also break this down in terms of how an individual would work with this and then how you would involve a therapist. You want to have your own sort of list of things. I really want to bring some support into this particular place in my life. You might go to a therapist that would come up with a little different orientation or a little different prioritization. You want to work in both of those ways. Um, but again, I use an intuitive approach, and that allows the part of the person who knows, basically tied into your higher self and your knowledge of what should come first, second, third, and to trust your intuition and trust your ability to choose the essences that you need at any particular moment. The other most important thing besides prioritization is intention. So you want to have a clear intent. My intention is to get essences that are going to support me in this specific way, uh, either short term or long term. And of course, your intention is something you take to the therapist as well. Um, you know, they will hopefully ask you, what is your intention? And you can say, well, it's very clear this is what I want. I don't, when I'm using flower essences, really approach the chakras so much. If that's something that you're working with, um, it is something that I do work with. Usually when I'm talking to people and doing flower essences, it's more starting from an emotional place, uh, and wanting to get a sense of stability and clarity in their lives. Um, if the person knows about the chakras and so on, then you can go and just see again which one is asking for attention, sort of putting its hand up. But it's an intuitive approach. I guess I keep coming back to that. Um, Listen, it's about listening and listening to that part of you that knows. There are essences, of course, that can help us listen and help us trust our intuition more, um, which you could be taking to help you, move into this place. Um, I will talk about blends. You can do both. I mean, it's totally up to you. Generally speaking, of course, when you go to a therapist, you're going to get a blend. You're going to get a custom dosage blend just for you based on, your concerns and your intention. Um, it's also really powerful to take one essence at a time, again, with intention, with an idea of what you want, and just to notice what's happening with that essence in your body. Um, Not only will you understand the issue or the situation that you're taking it for, it's a great way to understand that essence better. If you're taking a blend, it's a little bit harder to break it down, especially if there's 6 or 7 different ones in there. So again, that's if there's more to that question, please come back. Um, Camera, yeah, I mean, if you're making your own essences, yeah, I'm basically saying if you get if you get some stock bottles from us, they're going to be good until you're done with them, until that bottle's empty. Um, and it doesn't matter. I mean, nothing else really matters. Nothing's going to stop that or have an impact on that. You can, not treat them well, and they can start tasting, or you can actually get kind of really difficult to do this, but you can get some bacteria in there at the dosage level because you don't have as much alcohol, you don't have as much preservative. If you use 20 to 25% alcohol in a dosage bottle and keep it again in a cool, dark place, it'll last as long as it needs to, which is generally one dosage bottle lasts maybe 3 weeks. I generally give two because I'm asking people to do those essences for up to 6 weeks. So if you take it and you're done with it in 2 or 3 weeks, it's gonna be fine. If it goes off for whatever reason, you can uh, make more up. But I want to emphasize that when a dosage bottle goes off, it's still working. It just doesn't taste good, or you might have a little science project in there swimming around. That almost never happens at the stock level. Um, so is this the next question? Okay. So Matsumi's asking, does the color of the flower correspond with the chakra color? Yes and no. There is a much stronger, much more direct correlation between gem colors and chakras because the gems work more directly with the chakra system. The flowers, again, are working at the soul level, which will include the chakras, and you can test them, and you can test the chakra and say, what flower essences do I need? And you might find some correlation, but it's not as direct a connection. Therefore, in our information, you won't find a chakra. Uh, if you get on look one of the old books that's out of print or get into the living book, you won't find us talking about flower essences and chakras. Not to say that it wouldn't help, but it's not as direct. Um, Deborah, at the moment, we're not offering discounts for webinar participants. The intention, in which we're going to get back into that in November, is to have a monthly special. We have monthly specials every month, except for when we have our sale, and to do a webinar on those monthly specials. In November, we will do that again, and then those will be discounted by 25%. This, I wanted to get this webinar out there and pick up the ball that we dropped back in May because of the field season. So Lauren's asking what to do with any extra flower essences that are a personalized blend. I'm not quite sure what you mean by that, so if you could clarify. You might have some left over. When you're done with it, you're done with it until the next cycle comes around. Tanya mentioned that flower essences are very expansive, therefore to manifest in the physical. Um, the Alaskan system is unique because we have the flower essences and the gem elixirs and the environmental essences. And what we found over the last 30 years is that if a person is on the path of taking essences for quite a long time, it is every time expanding consciousness, it's expanding their awareness. And if a person has a very strong sort of spiritual awareness to begin with, they may need some extra help grounding or manifesting that awareness in the physical body. So we suggest that gem elixirs can be used for that purpose to uh, just bring the work that's being done in spirit, if you will, bring it down in the body. So, for instance, we'll find people taking flower essences uh, for symptoms, whether they're emotional or physical, and having more awareness from taking those, but not having the symptoms shift. So, by putting a gem or two in that mixture, with the idea of it grounding that awareness into the body, then the physical aspect will shift as well. It's just simply, we've already done the work on the higher levels, we need to do the work on the lower levels. Um, for each individual, it's just to find that balance in your own life of expansion and contractions, just like, rest and work, or breathing in and breathing out. We all have to find how that works. Um, we are going to announce dates for the practitioner training in Alaska in 2017 really soon. I'm contacting some caterers for the course. It'll be probably in the last week or 2 weeks of June. But I will get back, and that'll be announced in a number of different ways so that you can see that information. Um, Ava, working with clients who are depressed or anxious, um, you can definitely use essences topically um, with young, very, very small children, as well as people who are extremely sensitive. And the webinar that I'm going to be giving in November is about how to treat shock and trauma, but it's at a deeper level about how do super highly sensitive people exist in a physical body. I mean, how can we make that easier? How can we clear out the old stuff and take care of ourselves using the essences and using these different tools? And so you might have clients coming in who are so sensitive that they take an essence internally and it's too much. That tells me that they need more grounding, they need more gem elixirs maybe, but they need to be treated very tenderly. And one of the ways to do that, as you say, is to apply the essences topically. But if you're working with super sensitive people, um, sometimes I won't even get into the issues. I'll just say, what do we need to do with that person to um, stabilize them, uh, and help them just feel more grounded on the planet, and then we'll get into it. Sheila, yeah, we have time. Travel is something that I use quite a bit, and it's essentially a protection formula. Most of there's one, two, three, four, yeah, five different essences in this formula, and a lot of them are for protection, just to keep you protected from the influences of traveling, being in airports, being in an airplane with something like 360 miles of wiring. Um, everybody's got a video screen on the back of their chair and so on. But what makes it more than a protection essence is the smoky quartz. And that is an essence that helps you synchronize. So it's moving through time and space, through time zones, um, and helping you resynchronize uh, as you need to. I'll be going to Brazil here in a few days, and it will be helping me as I'm moving through the different time zones and literally going to a different place on the planet. That my energy body stays synchronized. Um, so smoky quartz is that essence. The black tourmaline is about helping you process all the um, energetic debris, if you will, that you're encountering. The Kabbalite is there to establish stronger boundaries, as well as the white violet and the yarrow. So three really strong boundary essences in there. Uh, One just to help you process it, and you need to drink tons of water because that's going to help with the processing as well. Um, and then the smoky quartz, and it's something if you think if you're flying or even going on a fast train, just think of I'm resynchronizing as we're moving along here. Keep resynchronizing with where I am now. And then when you get where you're going, it takes you a lot less time to get yourself all together. So jet lag isn't as bad. Uh, so um, we can take one or two more, but we've reached the end here. Tamara. Well, the person, and I'm talking, like the top 1% of the 1% sensitivity, um, you'll maybe you can see from their body language or whatever they've got going on that they have the high sensitivity. You'll make up a dosage bottle, they'll take that with them, and then they might get in touch with you within a few days or a week and say, I'm encountering, there's so much stuff coming up, I don't know if I can continue taking this essence. And a lot of times they won't contact you and they'll stop taking it. So you might find out when you have them come back in, or they'll eventually send you some feedback. And when I first had people do this, I was like, well, I thought the essences were right. And it's not to say that the essences were not the ones that they needed. That they were bringing things up, that's part of flower essence therapy. But the person wasn't stable enough. Their sensitivity wasn't stable enough for them to handle all that stuff coming up. So we want to then back off and say, okay, well, let's just, instead of talking about what you had on your list, let's just talk about how can we support you, how can we support the physical body and get you more grounded and get you more into a safe place, and then we'll, from that safe place, revisit uh, the issues. So I'd like to thank everybody for attending and appreciate the questions. And again, there'll be a page, there is a page on the website, which I think you're mostly familiar with because you had to go there uh, to register, or maybe you had an invitation, but check the webinar page under the education tab on our website, and that's where the link to the recording will be in a few days. So yeah, and we're going to turn the camera and the sound off, and I will answer Ava's last question just in the text. We'll go ahead and close this for now. And again, I'll announce the webinar in November, uh, probably within the next 24 hours. And hope to see you there. Okay, thanks a lot.